My name is Rory Hall and I'm the Science of Safety Practice Development Lead in Medway. Welcome to this short video on the topic of mapping. Once you've watched this video, please feel free to contact me with any questions you have or to request a one-to-one to discuss a specific case or situation you're working with. The link to my email is in the description below, or drop me a message on Teams. In the description below, there's also a link to the Science of Safety SharePoint page. Here you'll find more training videos, the slides that go with them, direct work tools, and a range of anonymised good practice examples. There's also the link to the Mosaic resources and guidance page, and you'll find resources to navigate your way around Mosaic and some worked best practice examples. In this video, we will understand what a mapping is, look at the 3 columns and 7 domains of analysis, and then look at a short worked example. So first thing we're going to bring up is the mapping itself. So within Science of Safety, the 3 most basic questions are: what's working well, what are we worried about, and what needs to happen? So simply put, a mapping in Science of Safety is an assessment. It's a way of gathering information, making sense of it, and analysing it. And there we go. So the simplest form of a mapping is taking information, sitting with a parent, a young person, saying, what are we worried about, what's working well, and what needs to happen. You then put the information on there, and that is a mapping, a simple version of it. To improve that, you have a scaling question at the bottom. So you make a scaling question, define 0, define 10. There is a whole nother video on that if you want to watch it, if you need to upskill on that. And it enables everyone in the room to say how worried or not they are based on the information on the mapping. To make it even more sophisticated, under the worries column, you've got harm, danger statements, and complicating factors. What's working well, we've got strengths and safety, and what needs to happen, we have safety goals and next steps. So all of our work in Medway is guided by Science of Safety as our practice model, and there are adaptations of this mapping within most of the things we use. So in Family Solutions, in your assessment, child and family assessments, the children in care pathway, as well as the pathway plan, have adaptations of this. But everything kind of stems from this map. And the idea of a mapping is it is a way of gathering and analysing information. So you can have a one-off mapping where you sit down, you invite a young person, their parents, their school, their youth worker together, either in a physical room with a whiteboard or bits of paper stuck on the wall. You can do it on Teams. And it's a way of, as you receive information, documenting it on here and creating a view, a mapping, an assessment of the situation. And a hallmark of a good mapping is that it brings clarity to something. What I should say before we go into the 3 columns is that the language changes ever so slightly depending on where you're using this. So in Family Solutions, for example, you wouldn't say harm, you would say well-being concerns. So just slightly tweaks. Danger statements and safety goals are covered more extensively in another video. If you're interested, we're going to predominantly look at the 3 columns and look at differentiating harm, complicating factors, strengths and safety within this video. So we're going to start this video in what's working well. So any good mapping should start in the middle column because that's where we talk about strengths and safety. If you start a mapping in the worries column, you are unlikely to leave it because it can be quite consuming, and then the what's working well becomes a little bit cursory. I would strongly recommend starting in the middle column if humanly possible, because it helps families to engage. It feels really genuine. It's a strength-based way of working, and sometimes you can draw on these strengths. Otherwise, it can feel a bit cursory at the end. So strengths, easy one. What's going well for the family? You walk into a home, the child is in clean, well-fitting school uniform. They've just been to an after-school club that they enjoy. They have friends. There is food in the cupboard, whatever it may be. All the good stuff that we see. We ask about it, we observe it, we document it, we celebrate it. We also think about progress. So progress in terms of any concerns. So if, for example, there was a parent where, say, a dad is a sole parent to a child of primary age, so a 6-year-old child, and he's using cocaine. So you're allocated to a child who is 6. His dad is using cocaine. Self-report 5 out of 7 days. Okay, not good. Concerning. During the course of your assessment, a month, he reports that he's now only using 2 out of 7 days. Okay, may be true, may not be true, but if he's engaging with an intervention of some kind, that might be something you notice progress. There's movement in the right direction. Might not be good enough yet, but still movement in the right direction. And then who's doing what to reduce or manage worry? So if they're engaged, if he has gone to Forward Trust, Turnaround, wherever it may be, Open Road, or say he tells his ex-partner about his relapsing drug use, so tells his mum, and that person starts visiting more frequently, that might be something you think, okay, this is good. This is a good thing. What we need to be really careful of is differentiating strengths and safety. So safety is something, for it to be classified as safety, it must counteract the danger or the harm. Okay, so the fact that that 6-year-old I've been talking about is in school isn't an example of safety. It's got to counteract that dad's drug use. So if actually there is an arrangement, a safety plan formed where when dad is going to use cocaine or has used cocaine, that his ex-partner or his mum, the child's grandmother, comes over to the home, so the child is cared for by someone who's not under the influence, that is an example of safety. Someone who's just popping in a bit more regularly is a strength, but actually someone who is there when someone is about to or has used, that keeps the child safe, it is an example of safety. We also need to think about how long it's been done for. So if during the course of your assessment the family say, oh, we've come up with this safety plan and it's been working for the last 48 hours, that's brilliant. That's what you want to happen, but it's then your call as to, well, is that long enough? Have we demonstrated that over a long enough period of time? I feel like that is safety, that's actually something that's going to stick, or is it kind of the early shoots of things moving in the right direction? So it needs to counteract the danger or the harm, and it also needs to be sustained to a degree. That, I don't have an answer for what is enough, how long is enough, but it's actually thinking about, the severity and longevity of concerns. If you've got someone who's been a cocaine user for 20 years on and off, as opposed to someone who has only used it twice in their life and, perhaps a lower level of usage. So moving into the worries column, harm. So simply put, a description of behaviour that was harmful or damaging to the child. So when we say behaviour, doesn't mean a child's behaviour necessarily, it's who's doing what that is causing harm. So if someone is using drugs or is experiencing poor mental health to the degree that they cannot get out of bed and care for their young children, that is an example of the behaviour. So it's not just mental health or neglect or domestic abuse, describing who is doing what to who. And the devil is very much in the detail here, is we need to do the detail of this really, really well. So how bad is the harm? If we're talking about cocaine use or domestic abuse or poor supervision, what does that mean? How often has it occurred? Has it occurred once in 10 years, or is it happening once every 3 weeks? And the million-dollar question is, what is the impact on the child? How bad is this for the child or children? And it can be different for different children. So we really need to make sure we explore the longevity, the severity and impact. We need to ask people about it. We need to observe it, think about it in direct work, triangulate it in conversations with other professionals. So really, really important that we do that detail. This can be quite a helpful ready reckoner in terms of exploring a concern. When was the first time that occurred? So if we went back to that example around cocaine, when was the first time that dad ever took cocaine, or the first time I ever took cocaine while in the sole charge of a child? Or when was the last, as in most recent, and when was the worst? What was the most cocaine he's ever taken? Or that kind of a thing. So we then move forward. In here we have danger statements. I'm not going to dwell on this because a whole nother video about that. It's basically based on the harm that we have, what is the current and future impact if we change nothing for this child. Complicating factors is in the worries column, and it's anything that is making life harder for this child or this family, or just making it harder to address these concerns. So real classic ones are housing. If somebody is overcrowded or is going to lose their home, that makes things a lot harder. Poverty, if someone cannot make ends meet, that makes it harder to address a mental health issue or kick a habit. Immigration issues, if somebody cannot legally work or claim benefits, it makes things loads harder. Just thinking about things that make the biggest concern hard to address. So that's the worries column. Then we move into what needs to happen. So again, safety goals, whole nother video about this, but essentially is where are we trying to get to, where we'll get to a point and say, this is good enough, we're done here. It's not specifically about professional engagement, but we will, when we get to next steps, we have actions in here. So who's going to start doing things or stop doing things to improve the life of the child? Who's going to do things to assess a bit further if we've got gaps? What are the network around a child going to do? And what interventions are we putting in place? So that's just thinking through the 3 columns, simply in terms of what goes where in there. Is now just a very short case example to demonstrate this. So we have a young man here called Sandy. I'm going to just walk you through the genogram and then show you some information. So here we have Sandy. So this, in a genogram, squares are male, circles are female, and it goes up generationally. So Sandy is 6, his brother is 18, and he has a girlfriend called Lily. Their mum and dad share the same mum and dad. So mum is Cherie, dad is Damien. This line here means they're separated. On the maternal side, mum has a brother called Harry, who's in a same-sex relationship with a guy called Kasif. Her mum is still around, Chelsea, sadly her dad, so that means Sandy's maternal grandfather is deceased. On dad's side, dad has a brother called Jordan. His dad, so paternal grandfather deceased also. We have Lynn, who's a grandmother, paternal grandmother, and she has a new partner, Frank. So here we have Sandy, who's 6. Main people are Sandy, 6, and his mum, Cherie. I'm going to move forward into another slide where we have some information about Sandy and his mum. I'm not going to read all this out. I'm just going to ask you to pause the video and have a read, and then we'll move into a mapping slide. Okay, so that information on the previous slide was not a lot of information really. It was kind of the sort of amount of information you might get in a referral. So just to illustrate mapping, we're going to take the information we had on the previous slide and put it into the map. So it is by no means a full assessment of a situation, but just kind of an illustration of what goes where. So in strengths, what we had on the previous slide is Cherie separated from the dad and also managed her alcohol addiction. She's been free from alcohol for 7 years, which is brilliant. She's self-referred into the GP. She wants family solution support. She had a range of coping techniques. They now don't work, but she had them, so something we can draw on. And Victor, that 18-year-old, and his girlfriend help out a lot. Lots and lots of good things in there. Some examples of safety, some debatable, some not. So the first one, mum is saying that she only drinks when Sandy is in bed, i.e. not in the day when he's awake. Might be true, might not be true, but it is a debatable example of safety. If this mum is saying she only drinks from 7, 8 p.m. Onwards, then there is a substantial portion of the day where she is sober. You might think that is something as a strength. Safety, it's a bit debatable, but just there as an example. Also, mum had separated from the father and managed her alcohol addiction. So the fact that she separated from someone who was violent previously is a really solid example of safety there. Wellbeing concerns, this mum is saying in the last 6 weeks she's using alcohol and she drinks it to the degree she falls asleep most evenings. Now here in that referral there was no impact listed on this child. We could speculate as to what it might be, but there was no evidence of it. So in wellbeing concerns, all we have is that the longevity is 6 weeks. It's alcohol she's using. She's doing it most evenings so she falls asleep. We don't know how much alcohol that is, but that's what she's described. In complicating factors, we've got that the older child was in a child protection plan and child in need plan twice. This was because of mum's drinking, poor supervision, and the dad was violent towards mum and she used to block it, used alcohol to block this out. All of that is historical about the older child, not about this child, hence it's in complicating factors, not harm. And also Cherie is not told some of her network, so Victor, about this relapse. This comes together, as I said, I'm not dwelling on this in this video, but you can make a worry statement about this and a well-being goal. So based on the worries that we have, we have a worry statement here that says family solutions and Cherie are worried that after not drinking for 7 years, she's drinking again, drinks alcohol most evenings to fall asleep. If there's some kind of emergency in the night time, she might be too drunk to keep Sandy safe. Worried if nothing changes and mum keeps increasing her drinking, Sandy might hurt himself. It used to happen when his brother was little, as mum isn't sober enough to keep an eye on him. Then we've got the goal over here in the top right quadrant. We want to see Cherie and her network find a way to manage, reduce and stop her alcohol intake and create a safety plan so Sandy is always looked after by an adult who's sober enough to make sure he doesn't come to harm. So the idea of this is to show that even though quite scant information, we can do a mapping of it. It's very brief, but we have a short analysis of what's gone on here, even before we've even gone out and spoke with the mum or spoke with the young person involved. Then we have a scaling question down the bottom, say how worried we are or not, say how worried we are, and then we make some sort of plan that addresses these concerns. So thank you for watching this. I hope it's been useful. In summary, a mapping is a way of assessing a situation. So you can do it as a one-off event. You can gather people together in a room on a bit of paper, whiteboard, or on Teams, and gather information, ask people questions, and create an analysis, an assessment of something. It is something that guides the majority of our work, our assessing work within family solutions and statutory social care, and it's an analytical tool that should bring clarity to our work. Thanks for watching. Please feel free to contact me with any questions you have, or to request a one-to-one to discuss a specific case or situation you're working with. The link to my email is in the description below, or drop me a message on Teams. Thank you.